What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. Might notice I got the new boom arm today, and I saw recently that, well, first of all, I saw a Purple for the Win video reacting to, I think it was Phil Simms' top 40 list of the best quarterbacks heading into this year. Maybe it was top 20, and it made me want to try to look at some lists here. So I found CBS Sports recently released their list of the top 10 players at every position, from quarterbacks to interior and exterior offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, and everything else. I'm going to start with the four skill positions. I'm going to do quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers in this first video. Then I'll go to maybe the other list sometime later. So to start the list of the quarterbacks, I'm going to say, first of all, hopefully Aaron Rodgers is not at the top, because he's not even a top 5 quarterback anymore. There's no doubt about that. So number 10, Kirk Cousins. Okay, I don't disagree with that. Maybe a little bit higher, but I'm also biased, so I'll skip that. But I would not put him below Dak Prescott. I honestly think they're really similar players. I mean, okay, first of all, Dak Prescott is a really mobile quarterback, but Kirk Cousins is just better at throwing the football. And it even shows, never mind, actually Dak was, pretty sure Dak Prescott was injured a little bit last year, but even the touchdowns to interceptions, this was statistically Kirk Cousins' worst year of his career, or at least with the Vikings. 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Though he did throw for the most yards of his career, I'm pretty sure, with the 45, 47 yards. And then Dak Prescott, 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Very average numbers. I don't think you can put Dak Prescott above Kirk Cousins. Let's see, number 8, Lamar Jackson. I don't necessarily disagree, but I feel like Lamar Jackson is just too much of a scrambling quarterback. You can't I don't know if you could put him super high up. Then again, if he's facing defense that he can destroy with his legs, that makes him a lot better with his arms, because then the defense has to plan for the run every time. That's why he was so good in 2019. Teams didn't realize how speedy of a running back Lamar Jackson was. So he destroyed them on every option play, and then he was able to throw for a lot too, with like Mark Andrews, and Marquise Brown. Number 7, Trevor Lawrence. I don't deny that. I mean, he took a huge step forward this year after having the worst head coach in NFL history, Urban Meyer, as his coach, and then he had offensive genius Doug Peterson, who, remember, he led the Eagles in 2017 when they had like the second best offense in the league, second to the Patriots, and like the second or third best defense in the league. They had the best running defense in the league. So, and yeah, plus his comeback against the against the Chargers last year. He had that's crazy is Trevor Lawrence has no star receivers. He has Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones. He has Calvin Ridley, and he has Evan Ingram. He doesn't have a single top 10 receiver. Christian Kirk is maybe top 20 receiver in the league. Yeah, he made such a good team around him. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if you can put him that high. I think Trevor Lawrence at this point is better than Aaron Rodgers. Also, 12 touchdowns. I did not know he threw that many touchdowns. He's literally never thrown more than 7 touchdowns in a season in his career. So, kind of surprised by that. But also, he's ranked that highly. Justin Herbert, I think, yeah, he's a top 5 quarterback now. So, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Maybe not a great statistical season, but especially after his rookie year, he showed how good of a quarterback he is. And that was when, like, he was thought to be like the best quarterback of the 2020 class until Joe Burrow broke out in his second year. So Justin Herbert, top 5 quarterback. I don't deny that. Josh Allen, honestly, a little bit low. I would put Josh Allen at number 2, just behind Patrick Mahomes, but I guess they didn't. Though he's been both durable and victorious. Let's see. 35 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Yeah, 14 interceptions is a lot. 35 touchdowns is a lot, but 14 interceptions is 2. He actually threw for fewer yards than Kirk Cousins and a lower completion percentage. He also just threw a crap ton of interceptions. Kirk Cousins did too, but whatever. Number 3, Jalen Hurts with the Eagles. After one good year where he was the best running quarterback in the league, I think he had like 13 rushing touchdowns alone. Which I think, so yeah, I think 35 total touchdowns, 13 rushing touchdowns. Well, we can go to Vikings, but whatever. No quarterback made a more substantial leap in 2022, but Hurts has also gotten better basically every year since the start of his college career. I remember when he was first a rookie in 2020, the Madden quarterback rankings. I completely mixed him up with Justin Fields when Justin Fields was on on Ohio State, and I thought Justin Fields was like the best quarterback in college, but in 2020 I didn't even know who Joe Burrow was, honestly. But for some reason I saw that he was like the far and away the best college quarterback on LSU. LSU, it's insane. 2019 LSU had Joe Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase was the number one target, but still, that's four NFL players on their offense. Three of them drafted in the same year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire wasn't great. He was really good in his very first game with the Chiefs against the Texans, but he hasn't been great. But why am I going there? Jalen Hurts. He was a 68 overall in Madden 21 when it first started. And at first I was so confused. I thought Jalen Hurts was like supposed to be good, and he wasn't that good his first 2 years. 2020, 2021. I remember in 2021 when they played against the Buccaneers in the playoffs, the first game, they were down like 30-0 against the Buccaneers. When Jalen Hurts just had Devontae Smith and he had Devontae Smith, he had Jalen Reagor, he had Quez Watkins, and I think he still had J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Jalen Reagor being the two receivers who were picked just before the star receivers DK Metcalf in 2019 behind J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and Jalen Reagor the pick right before Justin Jefferson. So 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Not a lot of touchdowns, but a really good statistical year. Joe Burrow, 4,475 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Joe Burrow, I feel like he's neck and neck with Josh Allen for me. I think number one, without a doubt, Patrick Mahomes, unsurprisingly. Number two, I'd put Josh Allen just ahead of Joe Burrow slightly, but not by that much, just because I think he's a better runner, basically. In fact, they're 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 35 and 12. So, yeah, he threw more interceptions, one more touchdown. He also threw fewer yards and a lower completion percentage. I didn't know that. On 7.38 yards per attempt and 7.55. Okay, that doesn't matter. Jalen Hurts 8.05 yards per attempt, 8.1. Joe Burrow, I remember he was in 2020. I was actually kind of surprised that out of nowhere some random guy named Justin Herbert was so good, because I just saw the name Herbert and I thought about Herbert from Family Guy, and I thought, how can that guy be a good quarterback? And he was the best quarterback in 2020 with Jalen Guyton as his number one receiver because Keenan Allen was out. I think Mike Williams was also there. 2019 and 2020 were like a 2-year stretch where I thought Keenan Allen was just a no one. I thought Keenan Allen just falling off a cliff, but I see he's still a star receiver. But Joe Burrow came back out of nowhere in 2021 as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, the highest graded quarterback by PFF. I think like 92, and Tom Brady was just behind him at like 91. And yeah, surprisingly, barely anyone got above 90 for the PFF grade. But Joe Burrow has shown how freaking good he is of a quarterback. Granted, he has Jamar Chase, he has T. Higgins, he has Tyler Boyd, he had C.J. Uzomah. I think it's pronounced Uzomah. A lot of people would say Uzoma, or if you're White's World, you say Uzama for some reason. Then again, I freaking love White's World. But anyway, number one, unsurprisingly, Patrick Mahomes, just the perfect quarterback. He can throw so accurately. I think he had a 65% completion percentage in his first year, 67% now. Obviously, like Drew Brees was always known for getting 70% every single year, but I mean, that's just so hard to do. I mean, you can look at like Joe Burrow 68%, Jalen Hurts 66%, Josh Allen 63%, Justin Herbert 68%, Aaron Rodgers 64%, Trevor Lawrence 66%, 62% Lamar Jackson, and then Kirk Cousins had the lowest percentage out of all of them. Well, 65.9. Actually, no, he had higher than Lamar Jackson. He had higher than Aaron Rodgers, surprisingly, and Josh Allen. So, Not only is Patrick Mahomes is he super accurate, he can also make anyone look good. 5,250 passing yards after everyone thought the Chiefs were gonna fall off after losing Tyrann Mathieu and Tyreek Hill in uh in what year was it? Why am I blanking? In just last year. And the offense only got better when they only had Juju Smith-Schuster. They only had Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Mecole Hardman, number three targets. Juju Smith-Schuster was number one in 2019 with the Steelers, but still a bunch of just no-name guys. And then they had Travis Kelce, who is possibly the best tight end of all time. Rob Gronkowski, Tony Gonzalez, Rob Gronkowski are undoubtedly the number one and number two. Rob Gronkowski is the greatest, the most dominant tight end when he was healthy, but he just wasn't always healthy. And Travis Kelce is right up there. He's always open. He's always the best tight end in the league. He has been ever since Rob Gronkowski retired, but he was always neck and neck even with him. So that's it for the quarterbacks. I'm going to move on to the running backs. Running backs, I feel like the running back position, it was really consistent from 2018 to 2021. Everyone knew that the best running back in the league was Derrick Henry, and number two was arguably Christian McCaffrey, though he was injured a lot. But now all of a sudden, like Josh Jacobs has blown up, and Austin Eckler too. So let's see. Number 10, Dalvin Cook. Gosh, he fell off so much. He used to be first of all, 2020 he was the second best running back, just behind Derrick Henry. 2021 he was still really good, but he just fell off so much. I mean, so much is an overstatement. He's the only running back who has broken 1,100 yards each of the last 4 seasons. 2019 he got over 1,100 yards. 2020 he got 1,500 yards. 2021 he got, I think, also 1,100 yards. He's always consistently gotten 1,100 yards, but no more, other than in 2020 when he just had such a good year. That year the Vikings also had the fourth best team by total offensive yards. But Dalvin Cook, he's just kind of injury prone, and he's a big home run or strikeout type player. Obviously, you have like the 64-yard touchdown against it was 64 yards against the Colts to tie the game. 81 yards against the Bills, the longest run of his career. He had the 60 or 61 yards against the Dolphins. But those examples of just his home run type plays versus I don't know. But like he also strikes out a lot when he just stopped right at the line. He's got a lot of speed, but at the same time, it is really hit or miss for him. Number 9, Tony Pollard. Okay, I'm actually stunned they put him up that high. Then again, let's see. He had fewer yards and way fewer carries. Let's see, 264 carries for Dalvin Cook and 193 for Tony Pollard, with just 170 fewer yards, one more touchdown, no fumbles lost. So I guess you can say that. Though Tony Pollard the last 2 years, it's been a question whether he was better than Ezekiel Elliott, but Ezekiel Elliott is washed now. Number 8 is Aaron. Oh, that hurts. Aaron Jones is not better than Dalvin Cook. I'll say that much. Aaron Jones is not a better running back than Dalvin Cook. Only 2 touchdowns last year. He didn't have as many yards, though he had close to, with nowhere near the carries that Dalvin Cook had. But he's not as good as Dalvin Cook. 3 fumbles lost, only 2 touchdowns. So, but again, he also had A.J. Dillon, but yeah, still, he's not better than Dalvin Cook. Number 7, Saquon Barkley. I don't deny that. He reminded everyone how good he still is after 2 years of being injured. 2018, he had 1,307 yards, or 1,305 yards, and I think a lot of touchdowns, because he was just such a shifty running back. He reminded me a lot of Devontae Freeman in 2015 when Devontae Freeman was on the Falcons. They both seemed like really fast, shifty running backs. So Devontae Freeman was really good like early on in this season. He tied Adrian Peterson that year for the most touchdowns with 11 rushing touchdowns. but he only had 800 yards, which surprised me because every single week he was right up there with Adrian Peterson and Doug Martin for the running back with most yards. Saquon Barkley, 2019 he got injured early on in the season. 2020 he didn't do much. 2021 I think he was more the same. But then finally in 2022 he broke out again. 10 touchdowns, 1,312 yards with under 300 carries. So, yeah, Josh Jacobs, I did not know he was that good last year. Oh my gosh, 1,653 yards and 12 touchdowns off of 340 carries. Yeah, he's Josh Jacobs again. Remind everyone how good he is. 2019, he was really good as a rookie. He was like second or third in total rushing yards. Josh Jacobs, I remember during the draft, they mentioned that he had never had his own bed until he went to college. Basically, because no matter how good you are in college, you always grow up dirt poor with no money on your back and in a broken down household. I'm not denying Josh Jacobs did. I'm just saying basically every single college player is required to have that kind of story because they need to have a great story. But Josh Jacobs, 2019, he was an elite running back as a rookie. But then 2020 and 2021, he kind of slowed down a little bit. And I remember him, James Robinson, and like Damian Pierce were like around each other, like some power backs. Jonathan Taylor, he was injured a lot last year. I don't know if you can put him that high up. Yes, he was elite his first 2 years. His first year, 1,100 yards and was the third in the league for rushing yards. His second year, 1,800 yards and top of the league in rushing yards. But I don't know if you can put a guy who got injured, especially a running back who got injured, that high up on the list after that. So he is really good when he's healthy, but I wouldn't put him up that high. Nick Chubb, number 4. I'm actually kind of surprised. Because Nick Chubb has been getting up there. It's like the second or third best running back. 1,525 yards and 12 touchdowns off of 302 carries while sharing the backfield with Kareem Hunt. He's still that good. 2019, he was the league leader in rushing yards for so long until Derrick Henry eventually overtook him. But then, let's see, like 2020 was a year when, I actually remember like the top running backs of that year were Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry, like Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara. That was when Alvin Kamara was kind of beginning his downfall. He was really good in his first really 3 years, but then he started to slowly go a little bit down just because Alvin Kamara he's a wide receiver. He's not a running back. But Nick Chubb, I'm kind of surprised he's only number 4 because he could legitimately be one of the greatest power backs of all time. You have great power backs like obviously Eric Dickerson, Jim Brown. You had like Marshall Faulk, Eddie George, James. Wait, no, what's his name? Jerome Bettis. Yeah, like Jamal. What was his name? Can't remember what his name is, but he played for the Browns and the Ravens. He had like he was like a really big 1 year wonder, 1 game wonder, whatever. Nick Chubb is possibly the best running back in the league today. He's possibly the best power back right up there with Derrick Henry. The thing is, Derrick Henry just has a more scary face to look at than Nick Chubb does. And then all of his ranks, tackles avoided rate, 27.5%. Rushing touchdowns, 12, tied for 4th. Yards per carry was tied for 5th. Ranks among 42 running backs with 100 plus carries. So he was second best there, 5th best for yards per carry, and 3rd best in total rushing yards, just behind Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs was the number 1 running back last year. Austin Eckler, only 915 yards, but he also has a lot of receiving yards. 13 touchdowns, 204 carries. As already mentioned above, Eckler has led the league in touchdowns scored in each of the last 2 seasons, making him one of only 7 running backs to do so since the 1970 AFL and NFL merger. Wait. Oh, led the league in touchdowns scored. I'm assuming that's besides quarterbacks, because obviously every quarterback is 30 touchdowns and I think only I think only LaDainian Tomlinson has actually broken 30 total touchdowns in a season. He had like 28 rushing touchdowns and 3 receiving touchdowns. In 2000, it's like 2003, 2004, 2006, or somewhere around there. I can't quite remember. But Austin Eckler, he was the top scorer in fantasy. I'm not sure if it was among everyone or just non-quarterbacks, but yeah, he is one. Austin Eckler was one of those guys that you think of in fantasy. First of all, he was one of those guys that before this year, everyone forgot how good he was until fantasy because he's just a receiving running back. He's a lot like Christian McCaffrey. He's a lot like Antonio Gibson. He's a lot like Alvin Kamara. He's a lot like Saquon Barkley, like those guys. And he was never like one of the best, but he was also one of those guys that in fantasy reminded you that let's say you're in a 10-team PPR league or just a 10-team fantasy league, it's generally best to pick out like the 6th, 7th, or 8th spot unless you get like literally the number 1 spot because they're always running backs or receivers a little bit down the list that not a lot of people think about but are still really good. And Austin Eckler was that because he was never among a top 20 list for running backs until last year. Maybe the year before last year, but he was never considered one of the best running backs in the league until literally this year. Only in fantasy was he really, really good. Number 2, Derrick Henry. Oh, Christian McCaffrey's number 1, that's right. Derrick Henry, number 2, with 1,538 yards, 13 touchdowns. I did not know he was still that good. I just remember him getting injured in 2021, although I remember it was through... I can't remember what week he got injured in 2021, but he was so ahead of every other running back that he stayed the number 1 running back for like 2 or 3 weeks after that. And then I remember thinking in fantasy this year because Derrick Henry got injured, you never really know how good especially a running back is going to be after they get injured. So I didn't think it would be smart to pick him in fantasy, but I mean he's still Derrick Henry. Though like Adrian Peterson in 2012, he tore his ACL in 2011 after 9 games. So, and people thought his career was over. Then he went on to rush for over 2,000 yards, almost 2,100 yards. But that's like a rare case of a player still being really good after they get injured. What's even crazier was that was his best year after tearing his ACL. But Derrick Henry, he got injured in 2021. Generally, you don't want to take your chances on guys who got injured last year because you don't know how they'll come back from it. But Derrick Henry's just still so good. Number 1, Christian McCaffrey. Why does he look depressed in that picture? Oh my gosh, okay. Ever since he went to the 49ers, he has not had a good picture. But 1,139 yards, 8 touchdowns. Wait. The San Francisco 49ers offense didn't skip a beat, going from Jimmy Garoppolo, a 9-year NFL veteran and Super Bowl starting quarterback. 9 years? Wait. So 2022, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14. So he was drafted in 2014, I guess. I mean, I didn't know it was that long. Oh my gosh. Jimmy Garoppolo. Then again, he was always behind Tom Brady in New England until 2018. So he also the most handsome quarterback in the NFL. But so a 9 NFL veteran and Super Bowl starting quarterback to Brock Purdy, the last player selected in 2022 NFL draft last season, in large part because of Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey along with Deebo Samuel, with Brandon Ayuk, with George Kittle were like such big reasons why the 49ers had a quarterback-proof offense last year, led by Kyle Shanahan. Because they just had so many weapons that they could use. Although, it's obviously not that they just had so many weapons, because even if you have like a really, really good offense, a really bad quarterback can ruin it for you because a quarterback is really important. So I honestly get confused what they mean by quarterback-proof offense. Because, I mean, obviously they set their offense up. It was similar with the Patriots also. The Patriots, even when Tom Brady was out, like with Matt Castle started in 2008, it was 2008. They still went 11-5, somehow missed the playoffs. Who knows how the heck they did. But 2008 they missed the playoffs, but they went 11-5 with Matt Castle, because that is one offense where even though they did have Tom Brady, they didn't need a really good quarterback. Bill Belichick even he's made a good team with like Mac Jones as his quarterback. In 2021, I remember in 2021 it was almost looking like the Patriots could actually give like the Bills or the Chiefs or the Bengals a run for their money, even though they had Mac Jones. But I keep on getting away from the topic. So Christian McCaffrey, yes, he was first of all, he was the best running back in the league 2018 and 19. 2019 he had over 2,000 scrimmage yards. Somehow got beat out for offensive player of the year by uh can't guard Michael Thomas, slant man, who was just because he had 149 receptions for 1,732 yards or something, or like I can't remember. It was over 1,700 yards. Led the league by far in receptions and led the league in receiving yards. But Christian McCaffrey, he was so good in 2019. Even people thought he was like indestructible, and then in 2020 he got injured. And then 2020 he was injured. I don't know how much of the year he played. 2021 he again didn't play much because he was still injured. This year was his first full season. 17 games. I'm not sure if it was his first full season or his first full season since like 2019. But Christian McCaffrey, a lot of people thought, including myself, that he was just super injury prone because of 2020 and 2021, and then 2022 he comes back and is suddenly the best running back in the league again. And I had no idea he was that good. Same with like Josh Jacobs. I didn't know Derrick Henry was still so good, but he is, and he showed that last year. Same with Saquon Barkley, two guys who were injured so much the last couple seasons, and then they just blew up out of nowhere. But okay. Aaron Jones should not be that high up. Aaron Jones is not that good of a running back, and neither is Tony Pollard, sure, but Aaron Jones, no, he's not better than Dalvin Cook. Anyways, let's move on to the wide receivers. Wide receivers, literally everyone knows that Justin Jefferson is going to be the top one. Probably Devontae Adams right behind him and Tyreek Hill behind him. But number 10, Jalen Waddle. It's so crazy that the Dolphins have two of the best receivers in the league, the two fastest players in the league besides Raheem Mostert. 1,300 receiving yards, 1,358 receiving yards off of 75 catches. It's almost 20 yards per reception. 8 touchdowns. And then Jalen Waddle, I remember in 2021 he broke the rookie record for total receptions. He beat Michael Thomas's record. And Jalen Waddle got just over 1,000 yards, but only 900 receiving yards, so he averaged less than 10 yards per reception, surprisingly. And I'm not gonna lie, I did not know he was actually known for being a speedster, because I knew guys like Tyreek Hill, guys like DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, are known for their speed. But I had no idea Jalen Waddle was actually that fast. Or also like Marquise Brown and Lamar Jackson. I knew they were known for being really fast, but I had no idea Jalen Waddle was. But then suddenly I hear people talking about that he was a speedster, and I just thought he was just a random rookie receiver that was pretty good. Meanwhile, what was his name? Jamar Chase was just the best receiver in that rookie class. Jalen Waddle, number 10. Number 9, Deebo Samuel. This looks terrible compared to 2021 when he had like I think 1,600 yards or 1,500 receiving yards. No, he didn't have as many as Justin Jefferson. I think he actually had like 1,400 yards, but he's one of those guys. He honestly seems just kind of like Cordero Patterson. He's a receiver, but he's so much of a running back. 94 targets, 58 receptions. That's a little over 60% reception. But I don't know if you can put him up that high just because, sure, he was elite in 2021, but I don't know if you could put him that high as a wide receiver. As a player, yes, because he is really versatile. He just like Christian McCaffrey also is, but not as a receiver. Number 8, CeeDee Lamb, no doubt about it. He came out of nowhere. I remember in 2020, he 2020 he didn't like shoot out of nowhere. Partially because the Cowboys had Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, but uh, it I remember in 2020 it actually took several weeks for Justin Jefferson to get into the headlines, even though he broke the rookie record for receiving yards in a season. There was still like Chase Claypool blew out of nowhere with like 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, I think against the Broncos, but also Brandon Ayuk did too. And then finally by week 3, Justin Jefferson actually was starting, and then it just turned around from there. But CeeDee Lamb was like nowhere in the conversation about like really good receivers, although he was. And then 2021, he was starting to show flashes of being even better than Michael Gallup, no longer being the number 3 target, but almost being the number 2 and number 1 target with Amari Cooper. And then this year, he just broke out as being the number 1 target in Dallas. Number 7, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, I remember he was the star receiver with the Titans when they also had like Corey Davis. Back when Corey Davis was good. Now he's garbage. But the Titans, they had such a talented offense with Ryan Tannehill, not a great quarterback, but is a good quarterback. The best running back in the league, Derrick Henry. A.J. Brown and what's his name? Corey Dillon too. And they also had Jonnu Smith. Again, like not a star tight end, but a solid tight end. They had a solid offense, but they just relied so much on Derrick Henry to be great. But A.J. Brown, 1,496 yards. This is the first time I've seen this. It's the first time I've seen a lot of these stats. I had no idea how good a lot of these guys were. 88 receptions, 1,496 yards, 11 touchdowns. He was another example of when to accelerate Jalen Hurts' progression to a star quarterback, they got a star receiver. It was the same thing with like Baker Mayfield. For Baker Mayfield, they got like Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. to help him. For Josh Allen, they got Stephon Diggs, and I can't remember like much other than that. But yeah, like, and then also Jalen Hurts was not that good in his first 2 years. But then once he got A.J. Brown, he was really, really good out of nowhere. Cooper Kupp, again, sure, like he had the best receiver season in NFL history last year, in 2021, I mean. Not 1,100 and I think 45 receiving yards off of like 145 receptions and 16 touchdowns. Literally won the Triple Crown award. I mean, not the award, but he was the wide receiver Triple Crown winner that year. But last year he got injured. He early on in the season, I saw a meme. It was just saying, basically, the Rams' entire offense for the first few weeks was literally just wait for Cooper Kupp to get open, because that's all they had. They didn't have like Cam Akers really much last year until the very end of the season. Cam Akers was pretty good in 2020, but in 2021, I remember he got injured, and I don't think he came back till like really late in the season or ever even. They had Darrell Henderson for a lot of it, and Derrick Henry. I'm gonna get away from that because I'm getting off topic again. But Cooper Kupp, I don't think you can put him at number 6. I don't think you can put him that high if he got injured last year. Yes, he was really good in last year, and it was one example of like the really bad ratings when he got a 98 overall instead of a 99 overall, even though and instead of like he was 98 overall, Devontae Adams was 99 overall. Cooper Kupp should have been 99 overall just because he had such a good season last year, but then he got injured and the Rams were just falling apart. So move on. Number 5, Stephon Diggs. I'm surprised he's that low. Stephon Diggs was the best receiver in 2020 with 1,500 yards off of like 127 receptions. Again, he helped Josh Allen become one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and he was the best receiver that year, besides Devontae Adams, who's just being really consistent. 2021, he was still up there with like Gabe Davis. I remember 2020 and early 2021. They had Stephon Diggs, and they also had like Cole Beasley. They even had Emmanuel Sanders for a little bit, but then eventually they both left, and then they just had Gabe Davis as a number 2 target, who was, I think he was like a number 4 target at one point. He just blew out of the water in the AFC divisional round in 2021. Then Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, I think should definitely be higher. I think I would say number 1 Justin Jefferson, number 2 I'd say Tyreek Hill, number 3 I would say Devontae Adams, number 4 I'd give to Stephon Diggs. I don't think Jamar Chase should be that high, especially he had legitimately such a fall off in 2021. He gets 1,455 yards off of like 80 something receptions. He averaged like 18 yards per reception and 13 touchdowns. Like he beat Justin Jefferson for the best statistical year by a rookie wide receiver. Won the offensive rookie of the year by a long shot. And it was looking like he was just going to follow everything Justin Jefferson did for his first couple of years, like be the best rookie receiver and then the best second year receiver. But then he slowed down to 1,000 yards. He was really slow, like in the first couple weeks against the Steelers. They lost like 37-34 somehow to Mitchell Trubisky. But Jamar Chase, I don't know if he can put him up that high last year for sure, because last year there was, I think, number 1 in the league. I'm pretty sure number 1 in the league last year went Cooper Kupp. And then immediately following him was Justin Jefferson, and then Jamar Chase was somewhere in there too, along with like Deebo Samuel. But Deebo Samuel and Jamar Chase both kind of slowed down this year as receivers. Then again, I think Jamar Chase was injured a couple games, but I'm not sure if you could put up that high after last year. Devontae Adams, not surprised, he's number 3. 1,516 yards. I'm pretty sure that's the most yards he's gotten in a season. Like 20. I remember in 2018 he actually beat out Adam Thielen, and that was before people knew how good he was, because from the time he was a rookie until like 2017 he was not seen as a star receiver, especially because he had such a problem with just dropping every single football thrown to him. He spent a lot of time behind Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb until he finally became the number 1 receiver, just by virtue of being the best receiver on his team and not by actually being the best. That made no sense, but still. Then 2018, he came out of the water with 1,380 yards, while Adam Thielen had 1,373 yards. And back then, I still denied that Devontae Adams was still that good, just because I couldn't believe that random number 3 receiver from 2016 would actually become that good. No, I think he was drafted in 2014, but still, Devontae Adams, he was like a nobody for his first 3 years. I think it was 2014 he was drafted, and he came out of nowhere, and now he's been possibly the best receiver in the league for the last like 3 or 4 years, and I no doubt he's that high up. Although I remember in like 2020 to 2021 he was getting up there right with DeAndre Hopkins for being the best receiver in the league for like 5 years, from like I think 2014 to maybe 2018. Undoubtedly the best receiver in the league was Antonio Brown. Number 2 was Julio Jones, not far behind, and then DeAndre Hopkins was also really good. And then DeAndre Hopkins was kind of slowly going up. He was kind of a quiet, like a dark horse, though he was known for like being a spider. Like he could catch anything thrown his way. He had the iconic catch where he had one-handed, but under his leg. I think it was against the Cowboys when he was a Texan. And then DeAndre Hopkins just continued to be really good in 2020 when he had that Hail Murray from Kyler Murray against the Bills, and he was undoubtedly the best receiver for like 2 years, and then Devontae Adams was just creeping up on him, and then it was like 2020, it was like 2020 and 2021 when he was looking like he may be the best receiver in the league, mostly by just being consistent. While Stephon Diggs in 2020 was the best receiver, 2021 was Cooper Kupp, but Devontae Adams was like the second best both those years, just because he wasn't statistically the best, but he's consistently the highest out of everyone. So he was the best receiver until just last year when Justin Jefferson finally took him over, and Tyreek Hill too. Like Tyreek Hill, he was never really seen as like one of the best receiver in the league until last year. Partially because he had Travis Kelce on his offense and Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball, so he was seen as just like a speed demon for a while until like last year he actually was